Welcome to the channel. I'm Stacy, and my goal here is to help you to play better and sound better in your worship services. Today we're going to go over the parts for Closer by Brandon Lake. When we were in the hospital going through it with our son Cody, my wife had asked the Lord for a song. Music has always been a big part of our home and worship in particular. And so that's a place that we go to for comfort and just to be closer to the Lord. It's really what we all do. But so she prayed and asked the Lord. Somehow, I don't know if she did a search or just opened her music app, and she saw the title Closer, and just going through that kind of thing, you want to be closer to the Lord and seek comfort in the right things. And so she listened to it and immediately, like, just the lyrics hit hard. And so it's been one that's ministered to us a whole bunch since then. And she built out a whole playlist of other great songs, and a lot of those had made my to-do list. So we're just kicking it off here with Closer. It's an easy song to play as far as it's not real technical. We're going to be playing off of an A-shaped B chord right here at the 4th fret, an E-shaped B chord up here at the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and then a D-shaped B chord up here at the 12th fret, and just kind of linking them together. And it's just good. It's a great melodic song. It uses, on the recording, it sounded to me like a high headroom Fender amp with tremolo. And so that's what I've got set up, and we'll be running through it. I'll dial back some of the tones just so you can hear the parts, and then play it with all the effects. Going into the intro, just kicking off the song, we're going to be fretting our B string at the 4th fret, sliding up to the 7th. Fretting it at the 7th, sliding up to the 9th. And then on the G string, we're going to fret it at the 6th, slide it to the 8th. And then let's see. And then we're going to fret the B string at the 7th fret, and then the G string at the 4th. And that just runs through one time. That's also a turnaround that happens later in the song, and it's the exact same part. So with the tremolo and with the thicker delay and reverb, it'll sound like this. The first verse section starts off with a swell. We're going to be playing that E-shaped B chord up here, fretting the D string at the 9th, the G at the 8th, the B at the 7th. We'll want to swell on that here in a minute, but we'll just go through the chords here first. This is going to be some kind of an augmented B chord, a 7th or a 9th or something, but we're just going to bring our pinky down on the B string at the 9th fret. So we're fretting the D at the 9th, the G at the 8th, the B at the 9th. And then in coming down for an A flat minor, we're going to fret the D at the 6th and the G and the B at the 4th. And then the D, G, and B at the 4th. After that, we're going to kind of do a little bit of a mimic on that intro melody, and we're going to pick the B string at the 4th, slide it up to the 7th, pick it at the 9th, pick the G string at the 8th, and then the G string at the 4th. So with all the effects, that's going to have no tremolo for that part, but a lot of reverb and delay. That's the swell tone, and it'll be like this. So that brings us to the pre-chorus, and that's going to be an A flat minor. So we're going to be fretting our D at the 6th, our B at the 4th, and then come up to that E-shaped B chord. We're going to fret our D at the 9th, our G at the 8th, our G at the 6th, and our D at the 4th. And then it repeats for some of that. We're going to be the D string at the 6th, the B at the 4th, the D at the 9th, the G at the 8th, and then the G at the 6th. And with all the effects, that'll sound like this. And that takes us to our first chorus. And there's no stems on this one, so I just listened to it and wanted to put together a single guitar part that would play through the whole song. There's something happening up at the D shape with all the choruses, but I decided to settle down here, kind of referencing our B chord at the 4th fret in that A shape, and then just playing off of that for the chorus. And then we go up to that section for, what is that called? There was a pre-chorus. So a pre-chorus later in the song, we're going to come up and play it a little bit higher. But this is what we're doing. We're going to be at the 4th fret on the G and B, and we're going to pick the B string first. And so it's going to be, so it's 4 of each, and then we're going to slide up the G string to the 6th fret, and then we're going to fret the B string on the 7th. We're going to hit that B string at the 7th 3 times, and then we're going to hit it at the 9th the 4th time. And then when we pick the G string at the 6th, we slide it back down. Let's see. Yep, slide it down to the 4th fret. And then we're going to fret the B string at the 5th fret. And then that part will repeat. It goes through the whole thing 2 times. And with the tremolo added, it'll be like this. And then I just fret that B string at the 5th fret. That's where that line ends when that part wraps up, rather than hitting the G string at the 4th. And then it goes back into that intro part, which is also the turnaround. And then we're into verse 2. So verse 2 starts with those same 2 chords, the B, and then I'll have to figure out what that other one's called, but we're just going to fret the, so we're fretting the D at the 9th, G at the 8th, B at the 7th, and then our second chord, we're doing the same, except the B is fretted at the 9th. And we're just going to rake through that. Let's see. And then coming down to the 4th fret, once we've raked those 2 chords, we're going to strike the B string and the G string at the 4th, one at a time, starting with the B, with a slight pause in between. So 3 times total. And then we're going to strike the B string at the 4th fret, and then we're going to strike the G at the 6th, slide it up to the 8th, and fret the B string at the 7th. We're going to fret the high E at the 7th, the B at the 9th, and we're going to strike the high E, the B, and then the high E. And then we're going to bar the high E and the B string at the 7th, and then we're going to fret the G at the 4th. And then we're back into the pre-chorus, which is our D string fretted at the 6th, our B at the 4th. And then we're back into another chorus. And then this one has a slight change. I added this lift when we're down here for the second time fretting the B and G at the 4th fret. And then we're going to fret the B at the 5th. I added a hit to the 7th just to kind of give a little bit of movement and a lift in that part. And I'll run through that with all the effects so you can hear that. But it's the same as the first chorus. And if you repeated the first chorus for all the choruses, it'd be just fine. This just adds a little bit of a change up. After that second chorus, we're going to go into a post chorus. And for that, we are going to come up and we're going to fret the G string at the 11th, the B at the 12th. We're going to do that 4 times. And then we're going to fret the B at the 11th. So we're barring the B and G string. And then we're going to fret the G at the 13th, the B at the 12th. And then we're going to do a quick walk and hit the B at the 14th. And here's how that's going to break down. Coming out of that, we're in the bridge, and that's going to be an A flat minor. We're going to rake this to an F sharp, and that's going to fret the D string. Oh, our A flat minor is the D at the 6th fret, the G and B at the 4th. Our F sharp is the D at the 8th, our G at the 6th, and our B at the 7th. And then our B chord in the E shape is going to be the D at the 9th, G at the 8th, B at the 7th. And then our E is going to be the D at the 6th, G at the 4th, and B at the 5th. We're going to run through that 4 times, and then the 5th time we do the A flat minor, the F sharp, and the B. So with the effects, that'll sound like this. Let's see, that is the snapshot 2, so it'll sound like this. Coming into that, we go into a down chorus, and then when we do come in, it plays the back half of a chorus, and then a whole other chorus. So it's 2 choruses, but we don't come in until the second half of the first, and we're going to play the same thing we played on the chorus that we just went over. And then coming out of that, we go back up to that for the outro. We're going to come back up to what we did on that post chorus, fretting the B string at the 12th fret, the G at the 11th, the B at the 11th, the G at the 11th, the B at the 12th, the G at the 13th, then the B at the 14th, the G at the 13th, and then the B again at the 12th. And then for the instrumental at the end, this didn't exist on the recording. I was just inspired in the moment, and I was already up here for that outro part. And so I just came up with this. It's just coming off of that D-shaped B chord at the 11th and 12th fret for the G and B strings. We're going to strike those 2 notes, hammer down on the 13th fret on the G string. And then we're going to come up to the D string at the 13th fret, pick that, pull off to the 11th, hammer back on to the 13th, pull off again to the 11th. At that moment, slide it down to the 9th, hammer on the 11th, strike the 9th fret, hammer it onto the 11th again. And so that little line will sound like this. And then we pick the G string at the 11th, slide it up to the 13th, pick the B string at the 12th, the B string at the 14th, pick the B string at the 12th again, pick it again at the 14th and slide it up to the 16th. And then we're going to pick it at the 16th, slide it down to the 14th, pick the 12th, pick the 12th again and slide it down to the 11th. Let's see, that's going to be a little bit more fluid. We're going to pick it at the 16th, slide it down to the 14th, pick the 12th, slide it to the 11th, and then we're going to pick the 13th fret on the G string, pull it off to the 11th, back to the 13th. So I was wrong on that back half section. So we're going to pick at the 16th, slide it down to the 14th, to the 12th, slide it to the 11th. To pick the D string at the 14th fret, just a real quick slide it down to the 13th, pull it off to the 11th. Let's see. That's it. So we're going to pick the D string at the 14th, slide it to the 13th. We'll pick that D string at the 14th, slide it to the 13th. From the 11th, and then slide it to the 13th, pull off to the 11th, slide down to the 9th. Hammer on again to the 11th and slide that up to the 13th. Pick it at the 11th, slide it down to the, pick it at the 13th, slide it down to the 11th, and then land on the 12th. And that 12th happens to be a B note, which is our root. And with all the effects, it'll sound like this. I love using tremolo, and any excuse to put it in the mix is good enough for me. Let us know in the comments, do you like to learn songs that you aren't necessarily doing in your worship service? And if so, give us some titles so we have some stuff to add to our playlist. If you'd like the resources for this song, you'll find them at a link in the description box below. There are a handful of downloads free for you in there as well. All right, I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one.